everybody. Welcome to yet another Star Trek podcast. The Star Trek podcast where we talk about Star Trek recorded as a podcast. That's never been done before. Has it, Brad?
No, I think that's the first time we've done. No, actually, I think we've done it before. Now that I'm thinking about it, we did it.
Has anybody else done it?
I'm sure there's somebody else who's done a podcast and has dedicated it to Star Trek. So I think that's why we called it yet another Star Trek podcast.
I think you're probably wrong, but I'm not entirely certain. How you doing, buddy?
I'm fantastic. You know what? I'm starting a 2-week long, I don't want to say vacation, but it's a 2-week long of not working, and the sole focus is to take care of my daughter.
It sounds like a vacation as a parent.
It's close enough to a point where I'm ecstatic to just sit back and relax and take care of the little munchkin. How about you, man?
I'm tired. This has been a really stressful week at work, and I'm just exhausted. I'm glad it's Friday, and I have so much stuff to do this weekend, and I have no time to do half of it. So,
well, I mean, if it makes you feel any better, I'm right in the same boat. I have no time to mow my lawn, take care of it, and clean up half the stuff. It's called being a father. And who would have guessed that? That sucks up a lot of my free time.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Traffic has been getting worse.
Well, I think unfortunately that is the signs of summer coming soon, and you'll unfortunately have to be dealing with that for quite a bit of time.
Yeah, you're right. Well, for the past 5 episodes, has it been 5? Have we done more than 5? I lost track.
I have no concept of time anymore.
Yeah, so that's fair, man. For the past 5 episodes, you and I have sat down every 2 weeks to chat about Star Trek: Picard season 3. And it's just been you and I. Our dear friend Majid has not joined us for these episodes because he has not been watching the show. But I am pleased to think that starting our following episode, Majid will be returning.
He did join us. Actually, we did record, I think, 2 episodes with him while we've been doing this. We've just been holding off on releasing those until after Picard is finished. So we will have something for the viewers.
They don't know that yet, Brad.
Yeah, they did. We told them last time.
Did we?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, we recorded with Majid, and then the next day we told them during our podcast with this.
We ruined the surprise?
Pretty much.
No!
This is I'm pretty sure this is not a con situation here, but you know what? Feel your emotions, let the frustration flow, just like they do in that other show that is called Wars, I guess.
Other show called Wars. If we use silly titles for our episodes, that would be the title.
Oh, I think so. I think that would be perfect.
Brad, we have come to the end of Star Trek Picard and our journey with the crew of The Next Generation. We have 2 episodes to discuss. Vox.
We do.
And The Last Generation.
And I want to say, this has been a wild season for me. I saw on Facebook the other day, somebody did one of those, like mock-ups for a meme for Picard, and it was like that Game of Thrones meme where it's like how the horse is like finally like pictured in like the first season, second season, and then all of a sudden like the last few seasons it's like just a chicken scratch drawing, and they did it reverse where it's like seasons 1 and 2 are just like garbage, and then season 3 is like the full-on like tail end of the Enterprise, like fully decked out and everything.
It does feel that way, doesn't it?
It does. And it's funny. I have some choice words for Vox and The Last Generation, but up until this point, I have been extremely, extremely happy with the season of Picard. And so, not to spoil anything for our listeners, but the question is, will my opinion continue or will it go astray with these most two recent episodes?
Well, why don't we get into it and find out?
We're starting with Vox. Not Fox, F-O-X, but Vox, V-O-X.
Like a box.
I thought it was actually Magnavox at first.
Is it live or is it memorized?
I don't know. I could, sure, why not? But we start off with where we left Jack and Troy. They are intimately holding hands together, ready for another counseling session.
It's not what you think.
Okay. So correction. They're together. And you know what? They are there to identify the red door. You know what? I see this, man. And I see it and I'm like, what's in the box, man? What's in the box? But it's like, what's in the door? What's in the door? And like, that's all I'm thinking right here at this point. It's just what's in that door. And we see Troy's hand to open it and cuts away. It cuts away to her running away from, be like, I gotta go. Peace.
I'm out of here.
And you know,
oh wait, we don't swear on this podcast. Oops.
you need to bleep that stuff out. But you know, it's funny. Like at first when they did that whole cutaway and Troy just like runs, and I'm just like, oh my god, please tell me you're not gonna like wait until the end of the episode to show us.
Oh my god, that was a real thought in my mind too. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
No, but thankfully, or I mean, I guess I mean, I don't know. You could say, unfortunately, we find out what it is, and it is the Borg.
Let's hash this out.
So I'm gonna start with how they explain it. Can we do that? Can we start with that before we hash it out?
Yeah.
So the way they explain it is that Picard was assimilated by the Borg, and when they assimilated him, they changed his, not only like his, you know, physical with the appearance, that the nanomites also nanites, whatever, changed his like chemistry to a point where it was like biological nanites. And when, you know, Crusher and him got it on, he passed that stuff on. And from what they're indicating is that the aromatic syndrome was actually never the case. It was the whole aromatic syndrome that Picard was experiencing was actually just the nanoprobes. And because of that, that is then transferred into Jack. And that is a problem.
Yeah, I mean, you really don't want to be shooting your nanoprobes into other people's, you know.
No, you don't want to get it on to that. But
I can't even finish a sentence. So it's so ludicrous.
Yes. So yeah, the whole idea, and then that's kind of why the that's seemingly why they took Picard's body, is because they wanted to help along this change in humanity. And you know, I apologize, but I may be going a little bit out of sync here, but the whole idea was that the changelings wanted to use that data from Picard's body to help program into the transporters to help make it a part of like the human genetic code so that when people use the transporter, like the change in their physiology was not noticeable, but would then change like anybody who used a transporter. And so I guess that kind of explains why the changelings never really used the transporters, because they didn't want to get infected.
Well, I don't think it was that they were avoiding the transporters. I think I don't, because I'm not sure that it would have made a difference with them. But the gist of what of the situation that I got was the Borg basically hired the changelings as hired goons so that they would infiltrate Starfleet and take over positions of power that would allow them to get this technology into the transporter buffers and be the transporter chiefs and the officers that would do the upgrades and things like that, and basically make it so that this stuff is getting installed in every ship under their noses. And they explain this, quite a bit later on in the storyline.
I'm pretty sure they do.
But yeah, like just the fact that let's rewind a bit. Like, how do you feel about them going back to the Borg?
I have very mixed feelings on this part. Like one hand, the Borg are probably one of my all-time favorite villains of Star Trek. I think that's hands down one of my favorite villains. They've always been there. I think in more recent years they've been kind of losing favor in my mind. I think some of the stories have been kind of weaker, but I think on the other hand, it felt, I don't know, it kind of felt like a little bit of a disappointment. And the reason why is that the changelings, it felt like there was like hyping up the changelings so much, only to do this like entire pivot to being like, nope, surprise, plot twist, it's the Borg.
Yeah. Once they shot Vadic out of the airlock, the changelings were effectively written off the show.
And I was kind of disappointed with that, honestly.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of why I was a little taken aback by the whole them switching to the Borg. And I think the other thing, the symbolic door, didn't really make much sense. Because it was like
the door. Yeah, I understood the vines once they kind of broke it down and explained it, but the door, that was a little bit more confusing. But I guess the red is supposed to match up with what we later find is the Eye of Jupiter.
But why don't we just do the normal green?
Well, I think they wanted to throw everybody off, because if they did the normal green from the first episode, then they would
have figured it out. Yeah,
they would have figured it out, and there wasn't that mystery box.
Or they could have done like just maybe solid black, like a very just black undertone, like decay, like rotting decay blackness to it.
Yeah, that would have worked.
Because not to get into the next episode, but we find out more about the whole situation as to what's going on with the Borg. And honestly, like I think that would have been a little bit more, that would have worked a little better.
Yeah. So
Picard goes to Jack, let him know, like, hey Jack, this is what's going on. It turns out I didn't have this disease, and I was never sick, and I was never dying. I didn't need to actually swap bodies, all of the yada yada yada. And Jack was not handing it. He became frustrated and wanted to storm out. And of course, there's two Starfleet goons blocking his way. But that unfortunately backfires. And he mind controls them and just like, yo, well, peace out, guys. I'm out of here. And he steals a shuttlecraft.
Yeah.
Oh man, how'd you feel about that part?
I mean, at this point, I was just kind of like, I was trying to figure out whether or not Jack was just being stupid or if he was actually being controlled somehow. Like, I'm a little disappointed. I share a lot of the same sentiments that you shared with them going to the Borg. The Borg have been sort of Voyager ruined them. I'm sorry. I know you're a Voyager fan, I firmly believe that Voyager ruined the Borg as enemies. They lost their balls. When a tiny little ship is capable of taking out entire cubes by themselves, like, it's a hard pill for me to swallow like that. So, I mean, maybe I just need to rewatch it again. It's been years since I've seen Voyager, but I really feel like they just kind of took the teeth out of that enemy. So they're kind of watered down to begin with, and we just had a season that was centered around the Borg and them chasing, a Borg queen that turns out to be Girardi. And, they just keep going back to the well with Picard. But when I think about it, like, at the end of the day, like, that's he's got two mortal enemies, Q and the Borg. And they did Q.
Yep.
And I guess they kind of did the Borg. Well, now they're really doing the Borg.
Yeah, I think that part kind of that really disappointed me.
Yeah.
And I think with Jack's decision to just, leave. I mean, I can understand like him getting frustrated and leaving, but like, I don't know, I think it was more of like him getting like controlled. I think that's what they were trying to emphasize, that he was getting controlled by the Borg to leave. But is it like, the question is like, was it just because like they opened the door, or is it because like it's been there all along and it was just a matter of time?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's been there all along, and it was just them kind of getting everything in position to activate it,
Mm-hmm. So we move into them explaining about the whole Borg doing the genetic alterations to the bodies, communicate with the cybernetic, or communicate with their cybernetic compartments, and Picard had like far more extensive alterations, all the fun stuff towards that, and the changelings extracted like the altered portions and stolen stuff from like Picard's body, the DNA and everything like that. They go through that pretty quickly, and it's they're saying that like essentially that Jack is Borg at this point, and like he's not really there at this point. Okay, and they're talking about how the was it Frontier Day is like the massive plan that the that the Borg are looking to interrupt. So we cut to like Jack. We find out where he goes, and he goes to a Borg cube.
Yeah, Jack just goes straight to the party.
Beams on board, and is like, "Yo, sign me up. Where do I plug myself in?" And he becomes a Borg.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit more to it than that, but that's the gist of it, man. Like, so Jack goes on the ship, and like, it doesn't take him long to like find the Borg queen. And I don't know if you picked up on this, but I didn't realize it at first either. This was Alice Creed playing
the original
Borg queen. Now, I don't know. I guess it was her doing a voice. I didn't get a good look at the queen in the finale, because I decided to watch it in daylight and I couldn't see crap. But I mean, was it CG, or was it a puppet, or what was it?
It seemed like I mean, to me it looked like makeup on, and then like half of the face was kind of CG'd.
Okay, so there was some CG involved then.
Yeah.
Okay.
But so I think this is where kind of I got a little frustrated with the. Well, we didn't learn about this until the next episode, I don't think, right? I don't think we saw her until the last.
We didn't see her face. We only saw the back of her head.
Let's talk about that in a second here. So after Jack leaves, Picard tells like Shaw to head over to Sol System so that they can warn the fleet and all that stuff. They have a I believe they're using their cloaking device at that point still. And they get to this whole system, and the fleet is in formation, and they're like, "Hey, we got a new ship." And honestly, when they were pulling out the new ship, I honestly thought that was like, "Oh, is that another version of the Voyager?" It looked kind of off, but they have like a new version of the Enterprise. I don't remember which one it was.
Is the Enterprise F?
F.
Yeah.
Enterprise F for failure.
And who was captaining the Enterprise F?
Wasn't it Admiral Elizabeth Shelby?
Elizabeth Shelby. Remember Shelby?
It's funny, like you know that meme of like Leonardo DiCaprio just pointing?
Yeah.
I was like that was me. I was like, I know that face. Why do I know that face?
Yeah.
And like it took me actually I think 5 minutes to figure out. I was like, she was in TNG.
Yeah.
And then I don't remember why. And so I had to look it up, and I unfortunately had to look it up. So I apologize if you got it before me.
You bad
I know,
nerd. You're not a good nerd. So disappointed in you.
In my defense, after I looked her up and I was like, oh my God, I remember this actress. Yeah. I despised her when she was on TNG.
Oh, she was such a bitch. Nope, she wanted that command chair so bad. No, I mean, Shelby was great though. Like, and her friction with Riker, I thought was really entertaining in the best of both worlds. Very funny to kind of see the two of them, Riker kind of like seemingly carrying that hatred forward into the future. Because he was not impressed by the fact that she was leading the celebration on the Enterprise, no less. And I mean, we got a couple flybys of the F, but we really didn't get to see too much of it, unfortunately. And I don't know, I guess it's a ceremonial ship at this point. It's not even like active service. I'm not really sure,
Yeah, I don't know. But the whole point, I think, was really just to announce like the new ships that the Starfleet is using, where it's like everything is connected. And didn't they like I'm pretty sure didn't they say this like in last season 2?
I think they might have,
because I remember like when they were talking about the Borg, they were like talking about how, oh no, if like it connects to the other ships, it could potentially take over the entire fleet. I think in season 2 they mentioned something like that. Then again, that could have just been like a wild, dream or drunken night of partying. I don't know.
Yeah.
But either way, the whole concept of why you don't take your entire fleet and have it entirely connected is this reason alone.
Right.
Is because we are introduced to Vox, Jack's Borg name in this situation here.
Yeah. And I guess it's because he's like the vocalist of a Borg band or something.
I don't know, man. Like, how'd you feel about that? Like, Vox. You are Vox.
I mean, it's not as cool as Locutus, but whatever. It's
the what does it say? So Vox, not Locutus, the one who speaks, but the voice itself.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think it was a very good name, but ultimately I don't think it mattered because it was never going to be as iconic as Locutus was.
No.
And that's not, the fault of anyone, it's just like, there's just no possible way for that moment to land in the same way. It just wasn't going to happen.
No. And so because of this, connection with Vox, the Borg now have all the things they need to control the fleet and take over all the Federation's starships.
Yeah, all the officers that are under a certain age basically start spontaneously being assimilated.
So Beverly said everything was like, for humans, this is like 25, or anybody that was under 25, and it's because the frontal cortex stopped developing.
Yeah.
And so anybody who is older than 25 is immediately okay, but anybody under is apparently, well, you're crap, man. That sucks.
What if you're 26? Do you like half assimilate?
Or what if you just turned 25 or 25 in one day? Does that mean you're okay?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's a little vague. Maybe Beverly doesn't really know the details, but
I think it's a generalization as to anybody who's 25 or younger. But you know what's funny, man? Like, I'm thinking about this and I'm like, if it turns all the people that are 25 or younger and they take over the entire fleet, that must mean like almost everybody who's older than 25 is out of Starfleet or they die.
Well, I mean, I think it's worth mentioning that they're not expecting to get shot by their own crew.
Fair.
So like in a way, this is kind of an ambush, and like, the starships are. There's a lot of young people that make those starships work. So it's not unreasonable.
Is it though, or is they just being like, you know what, we're gonna only cast young people?
I mean, think about Next Generation and how many people were on the bridge that were probably a lieutenant or below.
Fair.
And just lining up age with the academy and things like that. It's not unreasonable to think that most of the helmsmen that they had driving the Enterprise, they were probably 25 or younger.
Okay, that's fair. I will accept your answer, sir.
I thank you. Yeah, so all these kids, they start turning into Borgs and they start trying to take over the ship, and Geordi is losing his mind because his daughters now are part of this as well. And he never wanted to bring him into it, and it's just a really bad situation.
It is, and like Geordi's like, oh, I can go save my kids, blah blah blah. And of course, Data's like, no, you can't do that.
Yeah, they talk him down pretty efficiently.
Yeah, they do, and I'm pretty, I'm fine with it. So the crew. Well, when I say the crew, I mean
our crew,
our crew. Old farts, the Next Generation, decide to go down to escape, Picard, Geordi, and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. And, our beloved 7 of 9 and Raffi and
Captain Shaw.
I'm gonna cry. Shaw goes down to escape, but he gets shot.
Not a fan. I was so upset with this.
I'll be honest, like, I feel like this is like one of those big letdown moments of the death of a character. Because to me, there was no meaning in his death.
I think they were just trying to have him get like some sort of redemption, but I felt like he had already earned it.
Yeah, like, oh man, I was just so when that happened, I was not happy at all.
Yeah.
And
especially with all these rumors of a new show that they've been throwing around, the Star Trek Legacy show. Mm-hmm. Like, I was completely on board with Captain Shaw leading the charge on that.
Oh yeah. Man, that would have been so freaking cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a fan of his death. So he dies. I'm going to get over this in a second, folks. Please bear with me.
Pour one out for Shaw.
He dies. But so the original generation, the R generation, leaves the ship. They're like, hey, we got to go find a solution, right? So 7 of 9 and Raffi stays though, because that's a thing. They're there to try and help retake the Titan.
Yeah.
Power to them, right? More power to them.
Yeah. We forgot the most important part. When Shaw died, he left the ship to 7.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's kind of a big moment because he calls her 7 of 9, Captain 7 of 9. He doesn't refer to her as Hansen.
That is actually technically that is technically a very big moment for Seven.
It's a huge moment.
And it's funny. Like I don't know why I didn't think about it until just this moment, but then I realized like why he didn't like calling her 7 of 9, because it reminded him too much of the Borg.
Yeah.
I mean, he hates the Borg based upon, that previous episode. And I just, for some reason, it was like one of those things that kind of popped in my head. It was like, oh, that's why he doesn't call her that.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, it all makes sense, but it was a nice touch to have
nice
him,
gesture.
Acknowledge her by the name she prefers to go by.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I agree. And
so at least he went out like on a high note, right? Saving our favorite captain and crowning a new one.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so yeah, the things seem very bleak at this point. The ships are getting entirely taken care of. And we have the crew of the Enterprise, the original Enterprise, being like, what do we do?
Mm-hmm.
And what do you do in this type of situation? You go to the museum.
And Geordi has a surprise in the hidden hangar 12, I think it was.
Yeah. Wow, your memory is spot on for that one.
Dude, I'm a Star Trek geek. This is what I do. I can't remember what yesterday was, but I remember what hangar the freaking...
So what we get is the USS Enterprise D. How do you feel about that, man?
Oh, what a beautiful sight. So
go ahead.
You kind of alluded to mixed feelings with this episode when we first started today.
All right.
And
so, how about you? Did you have mixed feelings?
Well, I'm trying to let me explain.
Go for it.
All right. You alluded to mixed feelings at the beginning of this episode about the episode in its entirety, right? And I'm pretty much in lockstep with you. Up to this point, I'm like, they're doing the Borg thing again. They're doing the assimilation thing. Oh, they're assimilating the kids. This is kind of convenient. They killed off my favorite character on the show. They blew it. And then they opened up the space dock door to the Enterprise D, and all of those complaints just disappeared.
So you know what that reminds me of? That scene in Dumb and Dumber where it's like the guy list is like, oh, you do all this, and this, and you expect me to forgive you? This is awesome. And this is like loves it.
I'm gonna have to take your word for that. I've never seen the movie.
Oh man. But yeah, this is kind of the moment for me, man. Like when I was saying I had mixed feelings about it, up until this point, I was like, crap, this episode has gone the reverse direction I was hoping the season was going to go. And they just kind of started to blow things left and right. And it was frustrating, man. It was real frustrating. Then they did this.
Yeah.
And things seemed to be like, well, okay, I'll let you have it. You gave me this. I'm going to let you have those failures beforehand. You did all right in the end. And
they milked this moment for everything it was worth, right? And Geordi is explaining, where all the different parts of the ship come from, because the original Enterprise D, the saucer section was crashed in generations, and the star drive section got blown to smithereens. Mm-hmm. So, the original ship does not exist in any capacity anymore.
Nope.
But they were able to recover the original saucer, so at least it's the original bridge. And I think he said they took parts from another ship called the Syracuse, and he rebuilt the secondary hull from scratch. So like this is kind of like Geordi kit bashing the Enterprise together. And they do these wonderful beauty shots of her and everything, and then they turn the lights on the bridge.
It's like the 80s all over again.
Dude, I was watching this episode. I don't think my wife was in the room at the time. She might have left the room, and I'm really glad she did. Like, cause like it brought tears to my eyes, like legitimate tears.
I want to say I'm glad I'm not the only one.
It was such a moving, emotional moment for me.
And you know, it's funny, like, you say like they milked the moment of introduction of it, and it was worth every second of it, man.
Dude, I love when Star Trek takes those moments and milks them. Like, it's really hard for me to explain to somebody that didn't grow up with this show just exactly how important like the Enterprise is to me. This inanimate ship, right? This show, how important this show is. Like, it's hard to explain that in a way that people will understand, because to a lot of people it's just a TV show, right? But this TV show like taught me so much about what it's like to be a decent human being, right? Like, I didn't go to church. I didn't have a Bible, right? I had, you know, I had Jean-Luc Picard like trying to show me how to deal with different cultures and different walks of life and everything. And like, that's not to take away from my parents. Like, I want to make that clear. Like, my parents, I feel like they did a good job raising me. Like, at the core, like I wouldn't be who I am without them. But there was this like supplement that existed on the TV screen of this crew trying to just be the best people possible and put the best of humanity forward. And like, it shaped my life in ways that I don't think a lot of people would really truly understand or appreciate unless you also experience that, you know. And seeing this ship, it's like walking into your childhood living room.
So many memories, right?
So many memories. It's unreal.
I think this is the thing that kind of really helped truly win me over in this episode. Man, like, it was so this episode like gave me so many moments of be like, okay, I guess I'll accept this as an answer or a direction they're going to take. But then they do this and it was like, okay, I'm cool with this.
Yeah. It's like freaking Metalis is like, I can get away with so much, but I better win him over with one other thing.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much, yeah. All right. So we end this with are we able to save the Federation, you know, with just a lone ship? Tune in next time, folks, into The Last Generation.
And we get to hear that famous command, engage.
Man, dude, gave me chills. Chills, I tell you.
So, I mean, like, you know, a very uneven episode, right? You've got this huge nostalgia trip that's handled with the love and admiration of not only the people that wrote the show, but you could tell clearly the actors like felt something being on there, right? It's hard to fake that, I think. And it just, the whole thing just was so well done. Just getting those beauty shots of the ship, which, you know, that's something that Star Trek does better than I think anything. Just, it's almost pornographic. It's, you know what? But I mean, it is, right? Like,
I know what you're getting at.
You want to get all those shots of the curves and everything, right? And they did that, of course. And, you know, what a beautiful ship it is. And, you know, that era is just so unique because they've taken a completely different approach with the ship design since then. And I don't have a problem with the ship design now, but they're just like, a lot of the ships just look the same.
You know, I don't disagree with that part, but it's funny. Like, I think about Voyager and I think about TNG, and I remember the ship designs were such a period piece.
Yeah.
Of when things were occurring, and like reflecting on the current, I still feel like that is more of a period piece as well, is because like that's when we think of sci-fi nowadays, we think of that slick design that I don't know, it seems very generic.
I know what you're getting at.
It doesn't have like that same feel of uniqueness that like I feel like I'm used to, you know?
And maybe that's why the Titans stood out so much to me in this show, because it was this wonderful blend of new and old. That saucer section just invoked the Constitution class, the original Enterprise in a way that we have not seen in modern Star Trek. And it just made it stand out and feel unique and iconic, in a way that we're only getting with like the Enterprise. Even Voyager, as cool of a ship that was, like it was starting to trend in that other direction, I feel.
So it's one thing. So it's funny. This is like a fun fact that I found out, or maybe you told me. I apologize if you told me, but like there is one starship that when I see it, it's apparently seen upside down. The USS Reliance.
Yep, I've heard that before.
I never knew that was the case.
Yeah.
To me, it makes more sense that way. And I think the reason why I wanted to bring that part up is that I think the thing that we are set on is a specific set way to how these ships are supposed to look.
Mm-hmm.
And rather than trying to go outside of what that set way is, they just kind of go the same old cookie cutter type styles, but just slightly tweaking the silver chrome finish on the outside.
Well, I mean, with Next Generation, like they definitely played with the formula a little bit, and like you would see like themes in the way the ships were constructed, right? Because like they're using the same parts for the models, so there's only so much you can do. And this is when we're talking about models, not CG. So like the Nebula class ship, right, had the saucer section that the Enterprise has, had the same nacelles, but they were pointing down instead of up, and it still had the same hull and all that shit. But it was definitely different. And there were other ships that they introduced that kind of followed those same specs, But I feel like once we hit like First Contact, like they just kind of like made everything just the same. And even as we've gone into this series, like there hasn't been a ton of evolution of that design. It's kind of just stayed in that lane.
Yeah, I kind of think that Discovery did
well, Discovery was supposed to take place in the past.
Well, I know. I'm just saying, like, I think Discovery did an okay job of things.
The that battle against the Klingons, there were some pretty unique designs introduced, from the first episode.
Yeah.
So.
Move on to The Last Generation, sir.
Let's do it.
We start with an emergency transmission from the Federation president. The Federation president, Anton Chekhov, warns anybody who hears this to stay away from Earth. So at first, man, like I saw, like I didn't even see the name on the screen or nothing, and I just like I think I was looking at my phone, and I heard the voice, and it was like Chekhov.
Yes,
and I look up, and it was like Anton Chekhov, and I was like, wait a second. So then I actually had to double check to see if it was Walter.
It was Walter Koenig,
and it was, yes.
Do you get the Anton reference?
Yeah, that is from the actor who portrayed Chekhov in the Kelvin timeline.
Yeah, Anton Yelchin.
Yep, who unfortunately passed away through tragic means. He did a phenomenal job.
Loved him. I loved him in the role. They did like probably any complaints I had about those movies, man. They nailed the casting.
Oh, completely.
In my opinion. So yeah, his death was such a tragic accident, and I love that they honor him to this day in various means. I think he's had a starship named after him, the Yelchin, if I'm not mistaken. He's obviously now credited here for the character, which is I think a perfect blend. Anton Chekhov, like that's so cool.
I feel like that's one of the things that Star Trek is known for. They tend to be a giant family.
Yes.
Once you're a part of like Star Trek, you're a part of the family kind of deal.
Yeah. And it's such a wonderful thing to see.
Oh, it definitely was.
There were a bunch, like the Starbase, where they're doing the Frontier Day is called Probert Station. It's named after one of the designers of the original Enterprise, if I'm not mistaken, Andrew Probert.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Let's see here. Yeah, he was an artist, and I believe he came up with the design for the original Enterprise, or I'm not sure on the specifics, but he was involved in Star Trek since the beginning, right?
Yeah. That's pretty cool though.
Yeah, and there's always like those nods and those little tributes. If you dig deep enough, like every single ship that they announced in that performance or in the battle later, like there's a reference there. It's so cool.
Yeah. You know, it's funny, like the one that got me the most was in Discovery when we saw the I think it was the ship that was named after, was it Nog?
Yeah. Yep.
That actually got a tear for me because I loved the character. Like the guy who played him was phenomenal, and I remember when he passed away, and it was like, oh, that was such a shock.
Yeah. Yeah. Just another example of always being part of the family, like you said.
Yep. So we have this message of the Earth's president saying, "Stay away, stay away." And apparently, you know, there's nobody else who can help. Like all their ships and, you know, non-Federation, just nobody's responding to the crew of the Enterprise as they try to figure out a solution to the problem. I want to comment on this part. Is that was kind of an observation of mine. You had, what was it? The original crew of the Enterprise, right? Seven people, if I'm counting correctly.
For the main cast, yeah.
Yeah. All 7 of them are on the bridge.
Yeah.
Who's running the ship? Like, who does engineering not need somebody to monitor or like anything else? No. So it's
not in the budget.
Okay.
It's literally just the 7 of them. I mean, let's be honest. Data could run the ship by himself.
Fair,
and he has. So
fair, but like, wouldn't you like at least station somebody in a different part of the ship?
They're all Borg.
Sure. You know, fine. I'll accept it. I'm accepting. I'm moving on. So they head to Jupiter, because that's where the Borg are, and they identify a massive Borg cube. And you know, it's like one of those situations where I'm like, how long has that been there and nobody noticed? You know, like, sure, why not?
It's a little, yeah, you have to kind of check your brain out on that one. Yeah.
Yep. Right there. All right. So we go back to the Titan, you know, the only ship that matters, and 7 of 9, you know, taking the lead with,
well, it was Raffi and the Doctor. And there was one other person too.
Oh, that's who that woman was. She was the Doctor. I completely forgot she existed.
Yeah, she was the Trill Doctor. And then you had the cook.
The cook.
I don't think we got a name for him, did we?
No, we didn't. And like most of the people that took the bridge did not have names.
Right.
And it was one of those moments where it was like, I feel like this was like last minute planning. They didn't really think of it too much. It was the I don't even know what species that guy was. The cook was the typical, we're not gonna survive crew member, you know?
Yeah. But I mean, like, I think it was fitting that like 7 didn't know everybody's name and what their role was, because like literally there's so much chaos. She probably found the only people that were around her that she could that weren't Borg, you know, just started grabbing them and throwing phasers in their hands. And like they attached these transporters to them as well too, so that when they fired the phasers, it would transport instead of like hurting or killing. Transport them into the locked transporter room, which I thought was so cool.
I found that was really cool. But apparently there was only like 7 people on board who were affected. I don't know.
Yeah, that was well. They did beam the rest of the ship off to the Intrepid.
Okay,
remember that was a few episodes ago.
Yeah, I remember that. But I have to admit, like, this part was a little cheesy with the chicken. I'm gonna call the cook Chicken Little, because the Chicken Little guy, we're all gonna die type of attitude. he was just, man, something else. So yeah, the crew take the ship again. They take it over pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Or no. They get the infected crew off the bridge, and then they start to work on how to take the ship. I remember that part, right?
Right.
Then we cut back. Right. Then we cut back to Jupiter, which I don't know, man. Like, how'd you feel about the Borg cube in Jupiter?
Whatever. It's fine. Whatever.
But we find out that this Borg cube is only at 36% operational. I think this kind of stems from like what they were talking about in season 1, where like Borg cubes are like not functioning. They're like kind of deconstructing from what it seems like.
I'd have to go back and rewatch that, and I don't want to.
No, you're good. You're good.
It was such a rough season.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I'll forgive you. You know, Picard turns to Troy to see if she can feel anything. She's like, "Oh, there's quiet suffering," and you know, Data admits that he hates the Borg, and so therefore, you should go over there and end their suffering. I don't know. I'm just making shit up right there. Sorry. But yeah, like the crew is trying to figure out what what they need to do. How can they go and like save Jack. And I think this is probably right around where I get one of my most favorite lines in the entire episode.
Is it Worf?
Yes, it is Worf. And it's like Picard's like, I'm gonna go. Riker's like, I'm gonna go too. And then Worf is like, I will make it a threesome. And I'm just like, wow.
Riker's response though.
He's like, really? Oh man, it was great. It's like the only thing. It's like the thing I can think of is like phrasing.
Riker says to him, "Do you even hear yourself?" It was such. I lost it. Loved it. Michael Dorn. I mean, everybody in that scene like just plays their roles perfectly. But Michael Dorn has been the unsung hero of this show. His delivery and wit and timing has just been so delightful to watch.
I have to admit, Michael Dorn is probably one of my favorite characters, and
yeah,
I think the only reason why he's probably one of my favorite is because of like the fact that he went to DS9.
Yeah.
But man, I swear to God, dude, like that moment, I just like lost my crap right there.
Yeah. 100% agree.
But yeah, Riker, Picard, and Worf go over to the Borg ship to try to figure it out. They go and there's no active drones. Like they're all dead and like skeletal. They're like, why did it occur? And they don't really know. And
some of them are like actually like their flesh is being like eaten almost like.
Well, I think it was like just skull for one of them or two.
Yeah, like just decay and rot.
So they're trying to figure it out, or not. Actually, they don't really care about figuring it out. They're just like, all right, we got a mission to do. Let's go.
Yeah.
And Picard's like, all right, gentlemen, we part ways here. And Picard goes one way, and Riker and Worf go the other.
And you know, when this happened, like I genuinely thought like they were saying goodbye to each other because we were not going to see them reunite again. I wasn't sure how it was going to play out, but I was really truly suspecting that Picard was going to bite the bullet.
Yeah, I was kind of leaning that way too. I wasn't sure how this was going to end. There was a few moments that kind of things that got questionable for me. So Picard makes his way to like the center of the cube or some other place in the cube, and he ends up finding Jack. Now is Vox. He's in his Borg get up and everything like that. So I think I had a problem. I had a problem with this part. And it was like the amount of time he had to go on there, and based upon the energy consumption for the Borg, did they really need to put him into full Borg getup? They could have just left him in like his outfit and then just grew stuff over it or like through it or something, and just kind of had like a mesh up like that. I think that would have been more appropriate.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the best situation, but I think they were just trying to drive home the point that like he's the new Locutus, because I mean he had the freaking the laser eye, you know.
Oh yeah, and hey, I mean it was very homage to the original Locutus, and that felt very 1-in-1 for that. Yeah,
it was certainly an interesting nod. It just like we said before, it just didn't have the same impact, you know, because as much as I like Jack Crusher as a character in this season, like we earned that moment with Patrick Stewart and Picard. Like that was the culmination of 70 something episodes at that point. And you know, this happened in 10. So it just doesn't hit as hard.
No, I get that. But this is also where we see the Borg Queen too. Or do we get a face reveal at this one? I don't remember.
I think we do, but I mean, if we don't right away, it's soon
after that. You know, I'll be honest, man, like I can understand from a little bit from when they had the changelings and they had like the changeling cut her hand off, and then like she would have this conversation with us, like that image of whoever she was talking to, and looking at the Borg Queen's makeup, I could kind of see some similarities to it as to what they were trying to convey. It still was a little bit of a letdown to me, because like I was anticipating something that was maybe closer to that looking appearance, but you know what? That's neither here nor there, I guess I could say.
Yeah. The Terry Metalis did an AMA on Reddit, which I linked to you a little while ago, and it's worth a read. I read it before we started recording. He confirms that the quote, the gelatinous head that was speaking to Vadic was the Borg Queen speaking to Vadic via a long-range communications device. If you look at the face and the Queen, they are the same.
Yeah.
So, you know, that eliminates any, you know, interpretation.
Oh yeah, no, I get that entirely. It just, I felt like it was what you saw in that long range communication looked a little bit different from the Queen.
Yeah, I would agree. But again, you know, they're trying to, you know, obscure the what's happening, you know?
So we kind of go back to the Titan, and you know, I want to say is that a lot of stuff happens between the Titan and the Enterprise and the Borg ship that are all like happening at the same time, it seems. Because the amount of time they convey like, oh, it's about to happen, or oh, it's about this, like we only have like a minute. Like there's so much stuff that's like supposed to happen within this confined space. To have it run for a full hour, I'm like, oh man, it's got to be all at the same time, because there's no way these time things can match up. But yes, it
was definitely all happening concurrently. But yeah, go on.
All I was gonna say is that back on the Titan, the crew has kind of taken over the ship. Seven apparently realizes Picard's plan and using an older ship that's not being controlled by the fleet, and to try to help with, you know, getting their ship free and trying to rescue the rest of the ship, or the rest of the other ships. Well, they were able to figure out that apparently if they are not seen, the system will stop trying to connect to them, I guess.
Yeah, I guess the whole thing is based on line of sight, which is a little weird in the 25th century, but okay.
Well, I think the premise is that you can identify like the location of everything because it's like, what if the sites go down, or what if like some of the sensors go down and they can't like detect, so they use the line of sight. I don't know. To me, it seems like a flaw in plot hole that I'm like, hey, stop that.
It was just an excuse for them to use the cloaking device and kind of weave that into the story and buy a little bit more time and excitement. And, at the end of the day, I'm fine with it. It's not a huge deal.
Yeah, it's fine. But yeah, we kind of cut between the Enterprise, and we cut between the Borg ship, and then we cut into the Titan, kind of back and forth over the next several scenes here. Picard is trying to get Jack to wake up. The Queen's like, no, you can't wake him up. And you have to, if you unplug him now, he's just gonna he's gonna die from the shock of it. And I want to say something is Picard starts just like the unplugging crap left and right.
He just gives no crap.
My comment to that is like, why are there no active drones around that area? Like,
yeah,
like why would even if like all the drones in the area were there to keep her alive, like why wouldn't they why shouldn't she send more of them from other parts to just continue the process? I don't know.
Yeah. No, well, it's a valid complaint. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, Worf and Riker go to another area of the cube to to find the beacon, I guess.
Yeah.
And there are Borg there that are alive. But we don't know it at first, but once they start messing around with crap, then they wake up. And they conveniently destroy the phasers for both Riker and Worf. So Worf has to do his battle-eth type of action there.
Yep. And Worf gets shot multiple times.
He does.
And then fine. Nothing comes of it.
Nope. Fine. No issues. No problem. Nothing. I want to say though, there was a really funny moment with that when Worf and Riker go behind this thing. You're just like, all right, cool. We're gonna, this is our last stand type of attitude. And Riker, Riker's tries to pick up the batholith and is so freaking heavy. And he's like, you hold this thing?
Yeah.
And that was kind of a funny moment for me.
And then he pulls out a phaser from the hilt.
He's like, yeah, because he's like, there's a phaser in the hilt. He's like, why haven't you been using that? He's like, oh, it's more fun this way.
Yeah. I thought that was quite enjoyable.
Oh, that was. I like the banter between the two.
Oh, they're great. Those two are great together. And, it was nice to see them get a few more moments together, just kind of, riffing off of each other. It was a lot of fun.
So the Titan is going in and out of cloaking and non-cloaking to kind of help delay, the feet of Earth's spaceship. But ultimately they don't succeed, and the Earth's defenses is destroyed.
Yeah. The Probert starbase goes down.
Yep. And they start to target every single major city on the entire planet. So we know things are doomed if Picard and them don't finish.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, while that is happening, the Enterprise decides to go all Millennium Falcon on us and fly into the Death Star.
We need to talk about this.
Yo, you start, man, because I don't know, man.
I liked the idea, but it immediately felt wrong. That ship has a weight to it. And, I know that when we were watching, they were using a model. They were not using CG. There's real life practicalities to the way that ship moved in, quote unquote, outer space. But everything that it would do, even in Deep Space Nine, when they started bringing in the Galaxy classes during the Dominion War, which is all CG, they had a weight to them. They would fly slow. They would turn slow. they would need to take these wide turns like a tractor trailer, because they're big ships, and the smaller ships would run laps around them. And then to see this scene where they're flying through the corridors of the Borg cube, and like this ship is moving like the Defiant, it just felt wrong.
This is I think nowadays being exposed to much more science-based science fiction type stuff, like The Expanse is probably like a good example.
Yeah.
And that like objects in motion stay in motion, even in space. And so I was reading a book. I think it's the Hail Mary by Andy Weir.
Project Hail Mary, great book.
Yeah, and they're talking about how when they were doing this, like they're flying the ship, like they had to do a complete reverse of the engine to slow themselves down.
Yeah.
So they have to do a flip. And watching the Enterprise, like in those moments, I'm just like, this is so ridiculous.
It's especially tough to swallow because Star Trek was the trailblazer for this science-based fiction.
Mm-hmm. It felt very much out of the Kelvin timeline, honestly.
Yeah.
Something that we would see from that. I get it. Hey, it looked cool. I enjoyed the moment, but it was kind of like, come on, guys. Come on, really?
There was an episode in season 3, I believe it was Booby Trap, where the Enterprise is on very low power and they have to navigate out of an asteroid field. And Picard takes the helm and pilots them out using like gravity to like slingshot around these asteroids so that they don't use their engines, which would trigger the booby trap even further.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just thinking about how similar that flight plan was to what they were trying to do and how different it looked in the two scenes. And I just, I loved a lot about this episode. There's a lot here to like, but those scenes just really took me out of it. It felt like they were trying to do Star Wars, and Star Trek does not move like Star Wars. I'm sorry.
I think that was one of the things that kind of it turned me off for this episode. I think one of the things I did not care for.
I would agree.
But yeah, it was I was it Geordi, Data, Crusher, and Troy were on the Enterprise. They didn't really think they can do it. Data's like, yo, trust me, I got a gut feeling on this. And he did it, and he get to the center, and then they're like, oh my God, if we destroy this, that will destroy the entire ship. And so they'll have about a minute to get out. So they, of course, this is one of the moments where I was saying, like, I wasn't sure how they were going to play out. And this is kind of one of those things where I thought what they may alternatively do is sacrifice the entire crew of the original Enterprise to save like the Federation. Like that's kind of one of the directions I was thinking they may turn at this point. Obviously they didn't, because everybody has, survived. But I thought that was kind of one of those moments. And they let Worf and Riker know. Worf and Riker are like, oh, hey, cool, thanks for the heads up. We're gonna go save Picard now.
Right.
And did they ever take care of that Borg or the Borg that were kind of like following them?
Well, they did. They shot them.
Okay, they did,
because they had they used a phaser from Worf's hilt to dispatch of them.
And so they go to Picard, and Picard is jacked into the Matrix.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, no, he jacks himself into the Matrix because he's like, the only way to get Jack out is to connect with him and talk to reason, let him know he's not alone. And I was like, I guess that's a plot point. I didn't really care for that, man, honestly, because it's like one of those things where, how do you even know that's going to get you into the same place? And because when you think about the Borg in general, they don't talk to each other in general.
Right.
It's not like this whole all or nothing type thing. The other voices, and I would imagine if there's other Borg on that ship, there should be more voices, and it's just not Picard and Jack alone,
Well, not only that, but it's also like it's a collective. Like there should be every voice, not just on the ship,
Yeah, any voice that ever existed, kind of thing.
Right.
So yeah, there's a thing. Picard talks him out of it, and they both get out of the Matrix, no problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was anticlimactic.
Well, the Enterprise swooping in above them was kind of cool, though. At least.
All right. I liked the visuals.
Yeah.
I thought it was stupid though.
It was stupid, but
visuals. Okay, you got
looks
me.
Cool, but it did break that kind of that wall.
I think it kind of goes along with what you were saying before. It's like Star Trek is not being Star Trek and being more Star Wars-esque.
Yeah.
Then again, you and I could just be two old fogies, and we're not up with the Zoomers nowadays.
Hashtag not my Star Trek. Look, man, we can't use that hashtag because we're not complaining about the inclusion of gay and lesbian and bi characters and asexual characters.
That crap right there. Like when people complain about that stuff, it bothers the heck out of me because Star Trek's point is inclusion. That's the point of Star Trek.
100%.
And so when it's I know what you mean. It's like not like you can't do not my Star Trek because like for us it's just like, dude, come on. It's like it's the special effects, the action packed episodes. That part is not my Star Trek.
Look,
the other stuff that is my Star Trek.
My biggest complaint of this episode was that the Enterprise moved too fast. Like let's come on. You know what I'm saying?
I know. It's like, yeah, they moved. Mine. They didn't follow science. So that's where we stand at this point. I guess, right?
I hope people realize that we realize how ludicrous it is.
Oh God, yeah.
You know what I mean? But anyway.
Oh man. But yeah. So the crew of the Enterprise destroys that part. They beam them up. You know what? No, what I forgot. We missed a part. So Troy and Data and all them are like, oh, we don't know where they are. But then didn't Troy like, oh, I know where they are.
Yeah, Troy used her mind bullets to find.
And so she just like takes over the helm and is just like going about and traveling. You know, another thing too is actually I remember I thought about this last night was that when I was watching the episode, like Geordi has the bridge, right?
Yeah.
What is the point of him being in the captain's chair when there's no panels or anything at all?
Well, like you still need somebody to like take charge and like give those directions.
He can lead while in the other control panel while trying to help out with things.
Look, man, just let him have the chair.
But anyways, Troy takes the chair. She guides the ship to the rescue. She's the cavalry. She takes care of everybody. They all beam aboard. And the ship blows up. Oh, not the Enterprise, but the Borg cube blows up, and they escape like that Star Wars scene where the ship leaves when the blowing up of the ship. I don't know.
Yeah,
I've given up on this part right here. And then the Earth is saved, and all the kids are taken care of.
Yeah, everybody starts like de-assimilating, and all the Starfleet brass is still alive. They come up with a plan to put everybody through transporters again to like remove all the erroneous DNA that's going to turn them back into Borg. And
yeah, so nothing happens. Nothing happens to Picard. He's fine. Nothing happens to Riker. He's fine.
And then the episode ends. And we're all credits.
No, not done yet. Not done yet. We got a few more things. Man. There's a few.
I don't know what you're
I'm not done. I'm not done talking. I'm not done talking. You got to listen to me. So Crusher is now an admiral. And she's in charge. There's a section 1 year later section that I want to say, apparently 1 year later, they're back at the Fleet Museum and, they're all wearing the same outfit they were a year before, in my opinion.
Well, at least it wasn't dirty.
That's true.
At least they did the laundry.
I know. But we cut to I don't remember how the sequence works, but we cut to Picard, Crusher, and Jack in a shuttle.
Yep.
And Jack's going towards his next assignment. He's in Starfleet.
Yeah,
he's
fast-tracked.
Fast track, man, fast track. And it turns out, guess what? He's gonna be on the Titan. Oh wait, I made a mistake, didn't I?
Yeah, you just dead named the ship.
Yeah, Enterprise.
Oh man, Enterprise NCC 1701G.
You know what? Weird. Also, another thing I think we forgot to mention. Who's the captain?
Oh, well, you'd have to ask Tuvok that, because he's
Tuvok's alive. He's alive. Yep. And he meets with 709, and apparently Shaw actually gave good accommodations to her and said that she should be a captain.
Yeah, so he was doing the crew evaluations at the start of this entire season, apparently. And his evaluation of her was like, he's like, I'm a by the book captain, and she's not, but everything that she does with good intention and the right like goal in mind, and she'll make an excellent captain, and I'm recommending her for captain. And I believe he called her 7 in that speech as well too.
He did, yeah.
Despite having still been calling her, Hanson to her face at that point.
I think the whole point though is like it was his nod to know that she was ready.
Yeah.
That's what she preferred. There's one thing that I kind of wish they did. Like, I kind of wish they put in a line of being like, she's probably going to be a good captain, but she's also going to probably break more rules than Kirk will.
Well, I think that's their way of saying it, but we knew that too. So
I know. But we roll credits, right?
Well, no. We still got a little bit more.
Oh, that's right. We got it. Like, yeah, because the crew of the Enterprise, the original crew of the Enterprise, they are at a Guidance bar, which I was a little disappointed that they didn't throw like a Whoopi Goldberg in there.
Yeah, they probably should have ponied up a few bucks for her.
I know, it would have been nice. Or heck, man, like Will Wheaton would have been great to have him.
He's a traveler. He's a traveler.
I know, but
we don't talk about him.
Anyways, they're back at the bar. They're reminiscing on good old times, and things seem to be going better, right?
Yeah.
Getting drunk off their behinds, and they sit down for one last game.
Yeah, they break out a deck of cards and toast each other, and then play some poker.
Yep. Now we end credits, but I'm gonna say, man, I like that ending. As cheesy as the whole Borg twist and the over the top special effects, like I understand it. I'm probably getting nostalgia from my old Star Trek, and I'm not up to par with what you need to probably put in for nowadays for it to be successful. But I enjoyed it, man.
Yeah, it was perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, like, obviously I can and have nitpicked some things, but it felt like the send-off that we all wanted. And I'm so glad that they resisted the temptation to kill Picard again, or any of them, really.
Yeah.
Mad about Shaw.
I know
about Shaw. But I think you and I probably both saw that coming.
Yeah, I mean, he's technically an expendable character, and it's funny. I hate it, but I enjoyed that they killed him off specifically, only because I'm tired of like TV shows that have these no stakes for the main cast type characters, and he felt like a character that was going to be somebody that would stick around into it, potentially new series, and they killed him off, and I was like, no, there's actual stakes. Please don't tell me that. But if you think about most of the other TV shows that we watch, nobody who's important, the only people that would die would be the red shirts.
Right.
And this is one of those situations where it's like a Tasha Yar.
Yeah.
Or it's or it's like Ro or Jagzia or something, you know?
Yeah, no, 100%. That's well put. And we were talking about characters earning it earlier. In the short amount of time that we had him, he earned it. Like,
Yeah.
He earned us our respect and us feeling bad.
I think the only thing is I would have liked to seen it be a more meaningful death.
Well, it was a little sudden, and I felt like it could have been a little bit more epic, but I think it was pretty meaningful because like he was standing his ground so that Picard and company could be safe.
Yeah.
So,
all right. So we roll the credits then. The episode's over, right?
That's it. Roll the credits. We're out of here. Except for one other thing.
Oh yeah. We cut to the Enterprise, the new Enterprise, not the old one or the new one that got blown up or taken over by the Borg, but the one where Jack is stationed, and we see Jack, and there's somebody behind him. It's Q.
John Delancey. Back again.
And I don't remember the line for line, but it's something along the lines of like, I thought humanity's trial was over, and it was like your father's trial was over. Yours is just beginning.
Yep. I have such a weird love-hate relationship with Q. When he's all trially wily, I can't stand him. But when he's playing like that mischievous little rascal that he kind of became in later seasons, like I adored him.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So, oh yeah. Also, I did forget to mention, before the whole poker scene, we saw Raffi, Seven, and Jack on the Enterprise to leave Starport, and they were like, "Oh, Seven, what are you going to say for your tagline for getting us to go to warp?" And they just cut it right before she says it.
That was funny.
I thought it was perfect because, honestly, man, like I truly hope that this means that is the Star Trek Legacy show that we've been heard rumors about. I would love to see a new series that's based on Seven of Nine being the captain, Raffi and Jack. That would be so nice. Because I don't get me wrong about Strange New Worlds, but I would love to have something that's set in that continued timeline rather than doing like before or after those type of things.
Well, this is, I think, a thing that a lot of fans were clamoring for. And when Picard season 1 was announced, I think we had all hoped that we would get that. And then we kind of didn't. That was a lot of, we were on the La Serena the whole time, and there wasn't really a lot of Starfleet stuff going on. And then we finally get to season 2, and it starts out on the new Stargazer, and then they go back to the 21st century in an alternate timeline and all this stuff. And it's like, come on, all we want is 25th century Star Trek. That's all we're asking for. Discovery. Oh, well, we're going to go back before the Enterprise. Strange New Worlds, as much as I love it. Oh, we're going to be before Kirk. Like all roads have led to Spock and Kirk, or just not what people want. And this is what people want. This is what they've been clamoring for. And I think this is the perfect way to do it, by using established characters to give a rub on new ones and building that world. And if they choose to take this path with the new Enterprise, and with these characters, and just add in a few more, like, I'm on board. I will watch the crap out of that. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I really hope that, and you know what I was thinking about it too, was that it doesn't have to be what they're doing with Strange New Worlds.
No,
I think I would be okay if they did one series that's based on kind of like on this continuous story arc, like what they typically been doing with Discovery and Picard. And they kept like Strange New Worlds on its own, whereas they did with like if they did like another show and it was just one continuous thing, it would be fine for me. I think that would be great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's room for both types of stories in the Star Trek universe. And I'm fine with either.
And too, having Strange New Worlds and if another show set in the present, there's enough time difference that they don't necessarily have to interact directly.
Right.
So what happens in one doesn't have to be a consequences in another,
Exactly. Let me ask you one other question before we wrap things up. How do you feel about them renaming the Titan to the Enterprise?
I was a little meh about it.
I think it was unnecessary.
Yeah.
The Titan, the Titan is kind of been, even before Picard, that was a ship that people wanted to see because they knew it was Riker's.
Mm-hmm.
So it had this legacy to it through the books and through comics. It's just never been on screen before. And I know this wasn't the same Titan, this is a refit and everything, it's a different captain, but it could still be that hero ship that Voyager was, that Defiant was. Things don't have to be called Enterprise.
I feel, unfortunately, that right now we are set in a time period where a lot of the media that we consume needs to have some sort of reference point, and these corporations that really control things are not comfortable with taking these new ideas and creating new ideas based upon some of the existing. They have to fall upon what's comfortable for them. Yeah. I mean, it's, hey, Enterprise. Then you got Strange New Worlds you have Spock in there,
right?
And then apparently, I think Kirk is probably going to show up. I'm assuming another version of Kirk, I guess.
Yeah.
It's unnecessary type things. I feel like if you have good writing, that you can make a very successful show, and you don't have to have anything to back it up. And to me, the best example of that is The Expanse.
Yeah.
The Expanse was phenomenal writing, phenomenal special effects and acting, and it was very successful.
Yeah.
They just need to apply that type of behavior and don't take easy way outs. Don't necessarily go the quickest path to the end. What I always like to say is kind of take a slow and steady approach, like the way Marvel has been doing for their movies. Don't do what DC does, and do a very quick and dirty way of trying to make that quick buck.
Yeah. I mean, thing with think about that time, the first time that the Avengers got together, stood around each other in that fighting stance, in the middle of the city. They earned that moment, and that was epic because they had taken their time to build up to it.
Yeah.
Those moments can pay off, but they have to be earned.
And I think that's the thing that a lot of these organizations don't understand, and that's why they keep going back to things that they feel, people are familiar with the Enterprise, so let's stick with that. Right. Let's not name the ship, because if I feel like they don't give the viewers enough credit, because it's you're gonna name the ship the Titan. Well, then the person who's the very casual viewer is gonna get confused and be like, I'm not gonna watch this show. Right. Where's the Enterprise?
Right. The people that tuned into Picard that have not been tuning into Discovery or Strange New Worlds are not going to tune into Legacy. They watch Picard, they're done.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I think they didn't need to do that part.
Right.
But before we close it up, what did you think of this season? And this is a series too, I guess we could say, is that this is the end.
Well, we've been very vocal about our feelings about season 1 and 2, and I won't go into too much rehashing of those, but needless to say, I feel like this is a massive improvement of over both of those series, or both of those seasons, excuse me. It seemed like one of the goals that Terry Matalas and crew had was to retcon as much as possible. And I think they did a pretty good job of that. They retconned the aromatic syndrome killing Picard. They retconned, the Girardi Borg Queen. They retconned a lot of stuff and tried to make it so that it at least made sense and tied in with the rest of the larger universe. It was really cool to see the changelings again. Um, I'm disappointed that with Amanda Plummer being ejected out of an airlock, we've all but almost forgotten about Vatic because she was so powerful. But like as soon as she was off, as soon as her character died, that was it. We moved on to the next, and it was a Borg Queen. And it was a little disappointing to see them going back to the well with that because the changelings became the new big threat with DS9, right? They were the unstoppable enemy. They were the baddies. They were worse than the Borg. They were more of a threat than the Borg ever could have been, in my opinion. And I was hoping that we would get something more involved with them being the final boss of the show.
Yeah.
And, we ultimately all roads lead back to the Borg Queen and Locutus. And maybe I was naive for thinking otherwise, but I was really hoping that that wouldn't be the case. That said, they nailed it. The execution was great. Again, minor complaints, but nothing overall that took away from a final feeling of just complete joy, excitement. Like I was supposed to do some stuff yesterday afternoon, and the first thing I did when I got home was I turned on the TV and I watched the show. I was so excited to see this episode. It was all I could think of. I stayed off the internet for the past, every Thursday for the past 4 or 5 weeks. Like I have not touched the internet until I got home and watched the episode. I can't remember the last time I did that.
I can't honestly mirror or echo you enough, Drew, honestly, because like the same thing for the first and second season, same feelings. Third season, everything you said is so true. And even to this point where you're saying like you stayed off the internet to watch it, I can't tell you how many shows that I will like. I can't think of any other shows I do it right now with. Like it's one of those things that I will purposely watch as soon as it comes out because I was so interested in this series. And I'm actually kind of surprised with how well it drew me in, because I think about Discovery and I think the last time was Strange New Worlds, but that was only because we were recording. That was the purpose we did it. And I know you and we were not necessarily initially recording each week for this, or we're not recording each week for this, and so therefore we kind of like had some time to part between those the episodes, like for last episode and this one. I could have watched both these back to back, but I didn't want to because I wanted to watch this season. Right. I do want to just comment though, one thing is that with the change in the changelings from, I think it was episode 8, it was episode 8 and then 9 and 10 were the Borg. I feel like it was a bit of a disservice and it was not plotted out properly.
Yeah, it was a little rushed.
To me, what would have been more appropriate is to have the first half of the season to be all about the changelings and then the second half be about the Borg. That would have probably been a more appropriate approach, and it wouldn't have been something that was like such like a whiplash with my neck, because it's like I got twisted so quickly for that. But other than the complaints on that part, this season was probably one of the most entertaining seasons in Star Trek that I've had since. Well, I mean, Stranger Worlds was pretty entertaining, but I think this is a very familiar grounds that we were standing on. So it's a lot better than what I've been dealing with Discovery, and a lot of the other stuff too.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't reached the point yet where I want to go back to rewatch new Star Trek. Any of it, really. But I think this would be something that I would place on a pretty high priority if I were to do so.
Oh, I completely agree.
Right now, like I'm going through Deep Space Nine again because I'm listening, or I'm watching the episode while I'm simultaneously listening to a couple podcasts that are covering the show. And I think it may be some time before I start to revisit the newer Trek, but I think that this one this season in particular would probably be among the first that I would rewatch.
I agree. Could not second that enough, sir.
And it's just so, it brings me such joy to think that there's people that are out there in Hollywood that get it, because it so often feels like they don't.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I think
if they were to say, if Paramount was to announce that tomorrow, Terry Batalis, who wrote and directed the final episode, by the way, too, like if they said he's going to take over Alex Kurtzman's role, I would be thrilled. Like I would feel like the franchise was in good hands.
I agree. I think one thing you and I have not talked about on this episode is something that's also to come. The Section 31 movie.
Yeah.
That is something that I'm pretty excited about.
I am.
I don't know. Have they announced anything about like who's writing it, who's doing anything like that? I hope he does, though. Like, to me, like, he's such a good writer. I hope he could probably make it work.
Yeah.
And I hope it's not another just Kelvin timeline type action. I mean, then again, Section 31 could be spies and stuff like that. So that could be more action packed, which I would be forgiving towards it.
Like, just give me 2 hours of Michelle Yeoh, and whatever you do with it,
I know,
is
right?
fine. Like, she's going to be great. She's going to be great. You know, like Georgiou, Empress Georgiou was one of the best parts of Discovery, and they wrote her off the show so that they could ultimately eventually do something with the Section 31 plan. And I know maybe it didn't quite turn out the way they thought it would, you know, but maybe this is for the better. Just do a movie, get it out of the way, get it one and done, and don't like ruin it because you're trying to write too much. I don't know. We'll see. I'm looking forward to it, though. I am.
I know. I think right now we have a lot of stuff coming, and there's a lot of potential down the line.
Yeah. Well, in June, Strange New Worlds comes back. We're also getting another season of Lower Decks this year. I think those are the big ones. Oh, and Discovery season 5, which is going to be the last season of Discovery.
Yep.
I believe that's coming out the end of the year. I don't know if they changed production release on that, because I know they were filming some additional scenes so that they could end the series.
Well,
so
I'm excited to see how things go.
Me too. But man, this was a wild ride and a lot of fun, and I'm glad that you and I were able to complete it. Obviously, I think you and I owe like a big thanks to Majid for kind of letting us do this, because, you know,
I know. So if he had joined us for this, he would have been so lost in so many ways. And I think he would have gotten a lot of it, but it would have been not as memorable for him as it is for us. Cause there have been so many times we're talking, you and I, about how much this season has been kind of like homage to the fanboyism, and Majid would just probably look at us like we have 3 heads or something.
You're probably right.
But yes, thank you to Majid for letting us continue. We truly appreciate your dedication to letting us be nerds.
and thanks to the fans for listening to this extra long episode. It's been a while since I've recorded 2 hours of audio. I'm tired, so I'm gonna go.
Well, Drew, enjoy yourself in editing, sir, and hopefully you get some sleep.
I'm going straight to bed, my butt. So,
well, listeners, thank you very much for tuning in. It's been an absolute pleasure for this final season of Star Trek Picard, and having you tune in and hear our thoughts, and probably annoyingly complaining about all the little things.
And please let us know what you think too. You'll hear all of our social media and contact information in the credits, but we would really love to hear from you. You know, get a conversation going about what you thought about the show, what went right, what went wrong, and whether or not you disagree with us about the speed of the Enterprise moving through a Borg ship.
Well, on that note, folks, thanks for listening. Take care.
Engage. Thanks for listening to yet another Star Trek podcast. We're a part of the Retro Sessions Network. This episode was recorded on April 21st, 2023. It's hosted by Brad and Drew, and Majid is hopefully listening in somewhere. We'll see him in a little while, though. 2 weeks from now, we'll be coming back to the original series. But we'd like to thank everybody for joining us in this wild ride through Star Trek Picard Season 3, the final season of Star Trek Picard. It's been a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it. We'd also like to thank William Grobelar for writing the wonderful music for our show, and we'd also like to thank George Ratau for doing some great custom artwork for us. Both these wonderful people can be found on the web, and we'll have links in the show notes, so please check them out. And speaking of links, we also have links to our Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and our website, www.yetanotherstpod.com. Swing on by, say hello, follow us on all those social media platforms, or shoot us an email. The links are available in the show notes. But most importantly, we would really appreciate it if you left us a review on your podcast app of choice, whether it's iTunes or Apple Podcasts or whatever they're calling it these days. But Spotify is great too. Those reviews go a long way, and they really help support the show and get us out to more listeners. So if you like what you hear, please consider leaving us a review. We would really appreciate it. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.